As anticipation builds for the release of the 2024 Mustang this summer, we took a trip to a design studio outside the Motor City to get a preview of the S650's new digital cockpit experience. There, the engineers who designed it gave us a tour of the latest Pony Car's cutting-edge digital experience.
The key here is it's an experience that comes to life when you get behind the driver's seat. We want to make you feel like you're in complete control. And for that, I'll turn it over to Ruth.
Yes. Okay, so as I'm in the driver's seat, if I look straight ahead, I see the all-new digital cluster. It's a 12.4-inch display. And then to the right of the all-new digital cluster is the 13.2 Sync 4 touchscreen. So again, this is Sync 4. It's different though than our other Sync 4 products because it has a Mustang theme. So it's been rethemed for the Mustang, a darker palette, only a dark palette, no auto mode for light, and dark palette, completely dark to just match the cluster. Like Craig said, it takes the cues from the Machi's Unbridled with the copper. So with the bigger screens, we have now just one lower button pack. Of course, you still have your start-stop switch to start the vehicle. You have your volume knob, volume and power knob to turn on and off the audio system, but you have just a 6-button pack switch. So you have auto start-stop button, pony button, and we'll talk about that a little more. You have the traction control on and off, hazards, favorite button, we'll talk about that a little more, and you have max defrost. So from your 13.2-inch display, you notice much larger display than what we've had before, and now with just a 6-button pack, there's not a physical climate control head. So climate is all digital. It's in the persistent climate bar at the bottom of the screen. The most used climate buttons are always in the persistent bar. There is a drawer for some additional functions, but this bar is always there. So even if I'm in reverse or if I'm in CarPlay or any projection mode, you'll still have access to your climate. So if I press this pony button, it takes me into my Mustang, what we're calling my Mustang. And everything within my Mustang was developed using Unreal Engine, which is a video gaming technology. Okay, sorry about that. Video gaming technology that basically allows us to do really cool graphics that look like we're in a video game. And so I'll talk a little more about how Craig mentioned customization and personalization, but we use this Unreal technology to not only be able to customize the 2 digital displays, but also the driving experience. We'll get into that in a minute. Things that are within my Mustang are the track apps. So previously in the cluster, we had track apps that you had to access through the 5-way controller. Now you can access them through the touchscreen, and you still have access to like your acceleration timer, brake performance, lap timer, and then some features that are exclusive to the manual transmission, like the launch settings, the shift indicator, rev match. But if I go through like a long acceleration timer, say I want to go to the track, so things that are in track apps are meant to be used on the track. If I want to record my quarter-mile time and I want to say my start type is my drag race light, I press start. My cluster is going to change to my track looking cluster theme. I'm going to have acceleration timer and some information here about starting my acceleration timer. If I press OK, it starts the countdown, but I'm not driving, so you won't see the full effect of this until you drive. If I were to press the stop, and if I did actually drive, I would have results. So this button would be white, and I could select it to see my results. Same type of information is available for brake performance from 60 to 0, 100 to 0. Again, I can select one, press start, communicates with the cluster transitions to a track theme, and I have instructions on using brake performance. Again, pressing stop, I'll get results. If I actually had results and we were going 100 miles per hour and I braked. Lap timer similar as well. You have 3 tracks that you can modify, and so I called one MPG, but I can press on here and I can just edit, and it comes up with a keyboard for me to change the name. Again, then if I were to start it, I have my cues in the cluster where it changes again a track. I press OK. I can see my lap time that's being shown in the cluster. Again, once I stop it on the center stack, I would have access to the results. So Craig, I'll let Craig jump in here, talk about one of the Easter eggs that we have on this screen regarding track apps.
The track app icon that you're seeing on the upper left there, the shape of the track, we looked at a lot of different tracks, but we actually were inspired by Groton Racetrack here in Michigan, where a lot of the Mustang development is and has happened. So those are little details that we've put throughout not only the digital experience, but the entire vehicle.
True. And then auxiliary gauges. So now we have digital gauges that you get access to. You'll have a default of 3. They're up to 9 gauges that a driver can select, but you can show 3 at a time or 5 at a time.
To modes? Or...
Well, I'm going to show you. So
okay.
within, if you're from your home screen, if you go into features, you can edit your favorites. So depending on the content of the vehicle, so manual transmissions has launch control and rev match, so those will be 2 options. You can have it to select auto hold, so if I want to quickly go implement auto hold or not, or calm screen. So if someone said a digital detox, if I just want to a calm screen, not show too much information, I can set it to calm screen, or the exhaust modes. And exhaust modes won't be an on-off, but you could set it to one of the exhaust modes. So like I said, if I want to set it to quiet because I get up early, I leave early, and I don't want to disturb my neighbors.
Right.
So one other customizable thing is they're going to be, we call them information on demand screens. So information that you see in the cluster. So like your trip 1 to auto start stop, Mustang status, gauge details. We just saw auxiliary gauges that are digital gauges, but the actual value from those gauges can be shown here in the cluster. Tire pressure. We can customize what information to show here through our settings. So we would have settings through instrument cluster and choose the screens. We can show anywhere from like 2 to 7 different screens. There is a default for like driver assistance. So for your cruise control and your lane centering information, that's going to be there. And then if you're in track or drag, there's a vehicle information screen that's also available. But generally, most of your screens, you have the ability to turn on or turn off through the center stack. So again, I think what we're most probably proud of is just the Unreal technology that was used in the development of the My Mustang content, because especially with the custom drive modes and the ability to kind of customize your driving performance, you really can see how the car is changing. It's kind of like a video game where you can go and pick your type of car. You can now, in your own physical Mustang, you can go in and kind of customize your car.
Now is the car on here tied to the car itself, or can you customize it so it's the same color and all that as your car?
I'll let Craig answer.
It's a single color.
Okay.
And part of that is to help highlight the different aspects, so either the dampeners, exhaust, transmission, that type of stuff. So if we would say go with a red and we highlighted red, it would just blend together. So that's where we just went with this simple, clean, this silver blue, and it matches the overall color scheme that we have across both of them. So that was our logic. We show more of the colors within the selectable drive modes on your cluster, but it's not exactly to the trim. And I think just to riff off of what Ruth had said about the Unreal, this whole digital experience, if we were still constrained by the double brow, we wouldn't have achieved what we have here. So this is really quite, in my opinion, modern interior for the Mustang, and that's what, again, we're really proud of.
And how does the computing horsepower, if you will, compare to like the Mach-E? Is there a lot more here that allows you to do this? How are you able to achieve this?
This is still powered by Sync 4. So I'm not sure what Jordan may want to give a kind of an answer, but this is our Sync 4 system. So we do have Unreal that is running on our Sync 4 system.
Yeah, but it's essentially the same hardware that would be found in the Mach-E.
Okay.
And the F-150 and all the vehicles that currently have Sync 4 in it. The team was just, the platform is flexible enough for them to be able to take advantage of Unreal Engine in this application. So they went ahead and did it.
Yeah, early on we did this proof of concept, and that's where, just to see, making sure it's going to work within the hardware, right? And that's where, as soon as we saw the capabilities of what we could do, we were so excited working with our software team and got it implemented. Because again, before we would either have a list or just static images or pre-baked animations. So
few-second animations.
This just comes to life. So.
And how much of this development is driven just by, your creativity wanting to do it, and how much of it by like what you see as market demand from, say, a younger consumer? How is that?
Both.
Yeah.
I would say both. We talked to customers early on, and they really want us to push this Mustang to be something a little bit more modern. And again, it's our entire team. Our software teams are also gamers and everything. So that's where we're seeing this trend of this is the future. Like if you go into a quote regular car now and see the old analog gauges, it's going to feel like a step back. This is literally a leap forward.
Yeah, I agree. We do see that people want the bigger displays, right?
Right.
The bigger, so the all digital. And the digital allows us to be able to customize the displays for the drivers. Using the digital, right, we actually are able to add more vehicle content. So this is no longer just my infotainment system, right, with audio, phone, nav. It's a lot of the vehicle settings, especially now that you're saying like custom drive modes. I can literally customize my performance. And so it gives it that more customization in the cockpit, right? I've got my 2 displays under one piece of glass angled at me, and I can, through the touchscreen, I really can control a lot of not just infotainment, but also vehicle controls within the touchscreen.
If you think about when we did the first fully reconfigurable cluster in the 2018 Mustang, we were very conservative because we didn't want to offend everyone. We still had the double brow and everything, but people really just ate that up, and that's where, again, we just kept expanding.
Play experience in this that this new arrangement enabled?
Not specific to Mustang. We did introduce, and it is in one of the OTA updates that came out mid to late last year, the expand and contract button.
Okay.
So that was
okay. You could go full width with the map. Okay.
So that was a joint venture between Ford and CarPlay. It's also available on Android Auto as well to be able to go the full width of the screen. So that's pretty much the only thing that's unique. It's not unique though to this product. This is available on all Sync 4.
Okay.
So F-150, Escape, Corsair, Navigator. Oh, the
Mach-E.
Yeah. Mach-E does a bigger area, so they're more of a portrait.
The height, okay.
But with the updates that came out in model year 23 and our software release that came out the beginning of the year, it is a bigger area.
Okay.
Because the cards, we've reduced the cards, they're just shorter.
Right.
They're just the smaller cards, so that area for the smaller cards, and we've also made the status bar smaller, so you do get a much bigger projection area.
And I assume all of this is updatable over the air?
The Sync 4, that is one of the principles of Sync 4, right? Connectivity. And so, yes, over the air updates. The cluster and the center stack. And just that's also part of the architecture, right? With the new updated architecture, more modules are available.
First, we know you want to know more about the performance aspects of the digital cockpit experience, so we dove a little deeper.
Lock, which locks the front brakes, which again I can't show you right now, but then once you enable that there, you can go into the cluster and it actually has the spinning tire with all the smoke.
Yes.
That's really cool.
Yes.
Launch control, you enable it on the right side, but then if you want to change your launch settings, the RPM, you can adjust it here. So depending on which engine you have, it changes the variables. And then you can also go through, since this car is a manual, you can enable rev match, which again helps sync your engine to transmission speeds.
And what about the lap timer and the shift indicator? Yeah.
So we also have
the acceleration timer, so you can do 0 to 60. You can change different track lights that are shown. And then once you do it in this more user-centered touchscreen, it goes into the cluster.
Okay.
And that's where, for this acceleration timer, you press OK. And if we were actually able to drive, as soon as it goes green, you would start, record the session. So once you stop the session, you would normally see the results. If you go back, you could do the same thing with your brake performance. So you can either do 60 to 0 or 100 to 0. Same thing. You press start in the center stack, go over to the cluster, and that's where you have to accelerate up to 100, slam on the brakes, and then it'll record your distance. The other item is lap timer. So what's been configured here is you can rename the track, 3 different tracks. So if you say you wanted to do Michigan Proving Grounds, you hit start, you go into the cluster again, and every time you want to start, you hit the OK button. And then if you go to certain key points within a track or the full lap start stop, you can hit the OK. And after you go through a number of laps, by keep pressing the OK, once you're done, you can see the results of each one of your laps.
Right.
So again, that's really where this touchscreen really comes into play. The the shift indicator.
But there's no way to save that stuff beyond looking at it on that screen.
Correct.
Right? You can't download it or anything. Okay.
The shift indicator is something we have on today's car too, but again, it's a little better user experience. So you can pick your shift point, and in this case, we've got the TAC shift light shown here. So that's the blue area,
right?
And you've set it up for 6500. So we have a TAC style, and let me go back to, because it's hard to show it on the normal. So if you have that TAC style, which is really clear here,
right?
But then we also have a drag style, which you can't see here, but normally it's like the old tacks that are on top of the IPs. They would glow amber.
Yes.
This whole thing would glow when you needed to shift.
Yeah.
And then obviously it would glow red once you got to red line.
Right.
And then you also have the option of a track style. And that's where, again, it's probably hard to see, but you can see these sort of simulated LEDs that would go from the outside in to meet that 6500 shift point.
That's
so
very
again,
cool.
going from the drag strip to the track, it just, again, opens up more personalization.